Okay, we're on. Welcome, everyone, to the 2021 Chelsea Mayoral Candidates Forum. I'm Paul Schisler. I own a business in Chelsea and served on the Chelsea Area Chamber of Commerce Board for 7 years. I'm in the Rotary Club and a volunteer.
This meeting is being recorded.
For 1 year, I was the president of the board. Since I live in Lima Township and don't vote on city ballots, I have a fairly neutral position in this matter. It's my privilege to be here and to guide us through this evening's events. First of all, I'd like to thank the candidates for being willing to serve in this role as mayor of the city of Chelsea. It is not a job for the faint of heart or the casual volunteer, but it is rather a job for skilled, thoughtful people who care about this city, the large, well-trained team that keeps it operating at such a high level, our families, our businesses, schools, parks, recreation, our community in general. I contend that they serve out of a devotion and affection for this beautiful city. At a few dollars per meeting, I don't think anybody's doing this for the money. My thanks also goes to those of you who took time from your day to log in and learn more about these candidates who are competing for the office of mayor. I would also note that this forum is brought to you by the Chelsea Area Chamber of Commerce. Assisting me this evening across the desk from me here is Terrace Ahrens, the executive director. There's his hand waving. Wave again, Terrace. Okay, there he is. He's going to help me keep on track and keep this rolling along. I'd also like to thank Denise Coulieri, who is the administrative assistant at the chamber office, as well as the board members and the ambassadors. I'll be asking the candidates as many questions as time allows. The questions came to the chamber anonymously through the website. There were too many to ask them all, and many were duplications. We included the ones that most relevant to this election and did not choose the ones which were personal regarding any given candidate. One last comment, and then we'll get started. For those of you who may not be familiar with the role of mayor, I would refer you to the City of Chelsea website and recommend that you read about the powers and duties of the mayor in the city charter, section 3.7. Now let's get started. I'd like each of the candidates to introduce themselves and make their opening statements, which are limited to 3 minutes each. By the flip of a coin, we'll begin with Sherry Albertson and then follow with Jane Pacheco. I will be holding up these cards to keep us on time. 30 seconds and then, time's up. So Sherry, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm always at a loss as to how to begin talking about myself. I've been living in Chelsea since 1981 with my family. Both of the kids went to graduate from Chelsea High School, all the way from elementary to middle to high school. I worked for a number of years at the hospital while I was pursuing my education. This is something I never talk about, but I have an extensive educational background and an extensive research background. So I have, my undergraduate is from Central Michigan, and I hold a BS in both community development and public administration. I did my graduate work and did a dual degree program at University of Michigan, a master's in psychology and a master's in clinical social work. I then had a post-grad research appointment to the University of Michigan's Institute of Social Research, and which our field of study was Detroit, as well as the community service agencies in Detroit, providing services to vulnerable individuals. Our research was titled Gender and Racial Disproportionality in the Juvenile Justice System. So from there, I reached a crossroads in which I had to decide whether I was going to stay in academic research or go into the field and try to bring change to those situations. So in the meantime, I also pursued a PhD in research. My research is entitled The Psychosocial Antecedents of Intimate Partner Violence. I am deemed an expert witness in Southeastern Michigan and a child advocate for best interests of the child in situations of custody in relation to family and domestic violence. I also was on the emergency response team for Washington County, in which we responded to large-scale neighborhood and organizational catastrophic events. And I did 14 and a half years. I worked in the downriver area providing medical and behavioral health services to lower socioeconomic families and individuals. I am now currently at an agency in Ann Arbor. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Jane, go ahead, 3 minutes.
Thanks. I would also like to just extend my appreciation, Paul, to you and Terrace and the Chamber for putting on the candidate forum. I grew up here in Chelsea. I'll try to get through an extensive, life history, but I grew up here. I graduated from Chelsea High School, what is now the Washington Street Education Center, back in 1991. I attended the University of Michigan undergrad and shortly thereafter moved to Atlanta for about a year and wound up in Denver for about, almost 9 years. I worked in Denver in commercial real estate. And when I decided to move back to Chelsea in 2003, I was joined by my partner, Dennis Crawley, and in utero, my now 18-year-old, Gavin. We had another child 2 years later, Kira. She's almost 16. And the reason for the move, in addition to being in this community, I wanted to raise my family near my family. And my folks are here, my brother's here, we have an extended family in Michigan. So I've been back as a resident since '03. Professionally, I've worked in commercial real estate, nonprofit management, local food systems, entrepreneurial things, youth development, and most recently, social justice advocacy with an organization in Ann Arbor called Interfaith Council for Peace and Justice. Over the last years, I've served on city council since 2013, and I've been proud to be involved with lots of local issues that affect us on an everyday basis. I was happy and honored to work on initiatives that have helped our city be more transparent and accountable and responsive to citizen requests. And there's just a host of things that that have happened in the last years that I've been proud to be part of. In addition to the work on council, I've done work with our state house rep, Donna Lazinski, hosting housing diversity forums, and Washington area transportation study, hosting transportation town hall meetings. I currently sit on the CAP-DART committee for our commission for a liaison position and work with other local elected officials in the region to talk about things like housing and transit and economics and community development.
Okay, thank you, Jane.
You're welcome.
Okay, now what we're going to do is take turns answering each of these questions first. We'll start with the first question, Sherry, and then Jane. The next question we'll do Jane and then Sherry. And these are 2-minute answers. And again, I'll keep track of the time here for you. So Sherry, to start off, what specifically do you believe is the role of the mayor of Chelsea?
Well, in the city charter, the fundamental and most primary role is to facilitate council proceedings. And that's not an easy task to accomplish. But importantly, I think that there could be a misunderstanding amongst within our community in believing that the mayor has some sort of an elevated role. The mayor does not have an elevated role. The mayor is one voice. We have a 7-person council. The mayor has one vote and is equal to all of the other votes on city council. The mayor has the privilege of marrying people should they want to get married. The mayor pro tem does not have that privilege. The mayor works in conjunction and kind of as a point person in relation to the other departments, is the first face for the community. However, the mayor does not have any additional council power than any other council member. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And Jane, same question.
Sure. I'm going to expand just a little bit because Sherry did a great job with that, and there's not a lot I can add. I agree. It's in our charter. The city of Chelsea has what's called a council manager form of government. So the council and the mayor work in tandem with a city manager. In our case, it's that role is filled by John Hannafin. And the council and the mayor, as Sherry noted, the mayor facilitates meetings and has the responsibility of being, representing the city on certain occasions, but has no additional power per se. It's a one vote of 7 on the council. But the council and the mayor together have the responsibility to make policy. And the policy is the part where we hear and respond to the citizens and look forward to the vision of what we want our city to look like, while the city manager takes over sort of the day-to-day operations of the community. That role lies with the power of the city manager, which is oversaw by the council and the mayor.
Okay, thank you for those answers. We'll move on to the next question. And this time, Jane, you go first. Describe a situation or issue in Chelsea that you feel is a top priority to address.
Well, I will start right off the bat and start with something that I know is on a lot of people's minds right now, and that is the issue of civility and civil discourse. And I would like to let folks know that civil discourse, civic engagement, community input, these things to me are related and are very important. As long as I've been on council, and even prior to that in my professional life, I've done a lot of study, research, workshops, and even led groups on civil discourse in terms of how we communicate with one another. We don't necessarily or aren't even going to get to a place where folks all agree, and that's okay. But to reintroduce respectability, civility, a tone where we can listen and affirm that we have some understanding, that's a top priority to me, and I think to many in the community.
Thank you very much. And Sherry, the same question.
Yes, of course, Ms. Pacheco is absolutely spot on that issue. I would add that I think that this will begin 25 years in the field of behavioral health and helping couples talk nicely to each other. This begins with all of us making an agreement with ourselves that we are going to be respectful and have respectful interactions regardless of what our beliefs or differences may be. And that includes both face-to-face as well as in social media. If we can calm down the angry rhetoric and remember that we are all human beings and we are all traveling down the same river of life, then perhaps we can remember our humanity towards man. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Well, and woman, excuse me.
Go ahead. You've got a few seconds left.
No, I was just going to say our humanity towards one another, man to man, woman to woman, woman to man, man to woman, children to everyone.
Great. Okay, the third question, Sherry, you'll start with this one. How will you lead a very divided community forward, knowing that some won't like your leadership? And what have you to say to those who don't agree with the decisions you make?
Well, let me first say that the mayor cannot make a unilateral decision. It is the council as a whole that will make the decision. And the way that council arrives at a decision is through discussion. The role of a mayor will be to help perhaps lead the discussion, facilitate the discussion, but every voice on council has equal weight. And so again, this could be a bit of a misunderstanding, thinking that the mayor has a unique and unilateral leadership role that will set policy. Ms. Pacheco stated just a few minutes ago, the mayor does not unilaterally make any decisions. The council as a whole makes all of the decisions through consensus. Thank you.
Okay, And Jane, the same question.
So how to lead a divided community? Well, first and foremost, I think it's important to listen to your community, to engage with the community. The mayor, the council members, we are just representatives. We are the lucky ones that get to engage at coffee shops and soccer fields and congregations and take in the stories, the good, the bad, the suggestions, the criticisms. And I think in truly listening and acknowledging all of that, that's what we bring back to council. And, Ms. Albertson's correct. I mean, we discuss that as a council, as representatives of the community, and then we vote on the best way forward.
Great. I appreciate all these thoughtful answers. These are things that I think are common themes that we all in town have talked about over and over. The fourth question in line here, Jane, you'll start with this one. Affordable housing is a concern for many individuals and families in Chelsea. How could our community increase the number of affordable homes so people who work in Chelsea could also afford to live in Chelsea?
Affordable housing, I want to start by answering, and Paul, am I correct? We have 2 minute answer?
Right, 2 minutes.
Okay, so I want to just start and just speak to the word affordable housing. That means a lot of different things to a lot of people. And in what the council has liked to say is we're looking at, diversity in housing, right? Housing that is affordable, yes, but that can be a spectrum of things. So how do we look toward increasing the workforce housing in our community? How do we look to lower maybe the bar of entry for our first responders, our teachers, our social workers, our folks that may not be able to afford $300,000-$400,000 homes? I think as a city council, through the master planning process, through the revised zoning ordinance, we're touching on those things by, again, listening to the needs of our community and responding with thoughtful solutions where we are hopefully able to plan for diversity in new developments in terms of home sizes and lot sizes and uses. And then also in terms of existing stock and property, we need to be creative in thinking about options for conversions. Recently, we added accessory dwelling units to some zoning areas in our downtown area, and it's the myriad of options that exist. We need to explore them, investigate them, fit them into our community somehow, and implement.
Thank you. And Sherry, same question.
Okay, thank you. So we have just completed an update of our master plan, our comprehensive plan, and have added a lot of important new elements to it. Excuse me, as Ms. Pacheco has touched on. We have added the permissions. These are permissions, zoning ordinances is permissions. So we've added permissions to homeowners to add AUDs, except ancillary dwelling units, or ADUs, ancillary dwelling units. We have also written into the master plan the zoning. We've written zoning for tiny houses, clustered tiny homes. So that's in there also. So there are those two things immediately are more diverse housing options. But importantly, the former Heritage Point, which is now referenced as Heritage Farms, has a new development organization. And I believe that they are referenced as the development agreement is with Westview LLC. Okay. They have petitioned through, I'll talk fast. They petitioned through the Planning Commission to actually reduce the coverage, the structure coverage on the existing lots in order to start building smaller homes, single-story homes. so that there are significantly less of the large 200, 300, and 400 homes, because they had referenced the research which shows that there is a broader market now and appeal for small one-story ranch homes, and that is going to be a large portion of what is going into our community immediately. So we have now much more diversity in our housing stock. Thank you.
You're doing a great job keeping up with the timing.
Working it.
All right, Sherry, as we're going back and forth, so each of you gets to answer a question first. It'll be your turn on the fifth question here. The Chelsea City Council is a nonpartisan election. What will you do to make sure the council keeps its nonpartisan representation, keeping the best interest of the city and citizens first and foremost?
I have always said, and I will continue to say, that as a nonpartisan council, and that is section 3.1 of our charter, that we are nonpartisan and the entire community is one interest group. We are stewards of this community, and every person should feel and know that they have access to their local unit of government. And this is what I say to community members: our agenda is your agenda. We are here to serve you. You let us know what you want. We will keep the infrastructure going well. We will provide whatever best services we can provide. But if you do not provide input to us, we won't know what you want and what you need. And so I forgot the question. So let me say, because I'm trying to talk fast. The community, I was on the Charter Commission when we wrote that we will remain a nonpartisan council. So how do we maintain that? By reminding all of ourselves that we don't have none of us has a special interest group. There's only one group, and it's the entire community of Chelsea. I've always stood behind that because I helped to write that charter, and I'm the one who put the ethics right in the front of the charter on how we would conduct business for the city of Chelsea. So I'm done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Jane?
Sure. If I can just reiterate, how do we keep the best interests of the city and the citizens in light? Is that the essence of the question? So the majority of what city council members do, public servants, city council, mayor, city manager, is the operation of the city. It's the non-sexy sort of administrative things. People are concerned about infrastructure, speeding, sidewalks, public utilities, water, housing, trails, schools, those types of things, arts and culture. None of those things are partisan necessarily. So by virtue of the fact that I'm listening to citizens and working on their behalf to take care of these sort of everyday business sort of issues, I believe that is putting the best interest of the city and the citizens at the forefront.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to question 6, and Jane, you go first on this. Again, these are 2 minutes, and you can use up the whole 2 minutes. I'm going to give you plenty of warning if you get close, so don't worry about that. The 6th question here: how will you ensure that the city is collaborating with other large organizations like the schools, the hospital, and other employers that directly impact the desirability of Chelsea?
Well, first of all, I think the city does a fantastic job of this and has for as long as I've been paying attention to this sort of thing as an adult, so to speak. It is, this community is a small community, as you all know, and we have fantastic organizations, world-class, national award-winning organizations. And part of that, I believe, is due to the fact that we collaborate incessantly. So how do I ensure that the city is collaborating? I just continue in a long-standing tradition of collaboration. As a personal tenet, I believe that we go faster, better, stronger together. That's what our family mantra is. And I believe that in business as well. And I believe that in public service. We need to collaborate. We need to listen to all the voices. And the best solutions are many times collaborative.